Hello everyone, how are you all? This is Ashwini Neetan from Tiny Yawns Photography based out of Bangalore, India. I am a newborn and maternity photographer. In this channel, we'll discuss everything related to newborns, maternity and photographer life. Hope you all will like what we discuss in this channel, and please do let me know if you have any suggestions for upcoming videos. I'll definitely try to make them, and let's get started. Today's video is about digital backdrops. So what is a digital backdrop? Digital backdrops are something that we have taken a picture prior of the prop, everything is set up, the prop, the flowers or whatever we have kept in that setup. We have fixed everything. We have taken a picture but without a baby inside it. So we take the baby's edited image, then we Photoshop that image onto the digital backdrop. For example, if I've done some setup with fresh flowers and the flowers are seasonal, I can't get it whenever I want it. So what I do, I take the picture, I keep it as a digital backdrop. In that way, the image is evergreen and I can use it whenever the client requests for it. So are there any prerequisites for a digital backdrop? While you may take any picture of the baby and then Photoshop it to any digital backdrop, it is recommended that you follow certain guidelines so that always 100% of the times whatever picture you take will match the digital backdrop. So let's list them one by one. The first and foremost thing required for a successful digital composite is you need to shoot for the digital backdrop. What do I mean when I say you need to shoot for the digital backdrop? Let me explain. When I say you need to shoot for the digital backdrop, it simply means that you need to keep in mind what digital backdrop you are shooting this image for and where is the lighting coming from, what is the color of the blanket in the digital backdrop, are there any other requirements needed is what you need to think. Let me explain. So first thing is lighting. Keep your digital backdrop in mind. So open your digital backdrop, cleanly observe where is the light coming from in your backdrop which you are planning to composite. So before shooting, you need to think about this before shooting, okay? Very important. Think about this and keep it in your mind before shooting it. So open a digital backdrop, observe in which side the light is coming from. If the light is coming from the left side, place your light to the left side of the baby. If the light is coming from the right side, then place the baby in the middle and keep the light on your right. This will help you to easily, very easily composite so that there is no distractions like light is coming from another side on the baby's face, but on the digital backdrop the light is coming from somewhere else. So this conflict will be avoided if you are taking care of it before shooting for the digital backdrop. What is another thing which is important while shooting for digital backdrops? If you observe your digital backdrop, there is a blanket or a fur or something in the middle where the baby goes inside. So have a look at that and then remember what color is it and try to place the baby on a similar color tone blanket or a fur. Even if it is not the same color, a similar tone should help so that you can match that while you're compositing in Photoshop. So open your baby wardrobe, check what color fur you have, and while buying the digital backdrop, keep that in mind and then buy those colors or similar color digital backdrops. So it will be easy for you to Photoshop it, and trust me, it's going to reduce so much while editing. You can't even imagine that is like a savior. It's not that we can't Photoshop another different colored blanket onto this, but again we lose a lot of shadows, or it might be it might take 2 times or 3 times the time what would take if you had the similar color blanket. Now that we have discussed what all is required in a digital backdrop, let's move on and then see how I go and edit a digital backdrop. So in this particular edit, what you're going to see is that I'm editing an image which I clicked from scratch, like it's not something which I bought from somewhere else. This is the image I created in my studio for a particular client, and the nest prop you see, that's one of the most requested by my clients. I try to keep the flowers and the colors different as much as possible, and whenever I do something like that, I keep it as a digital backdrop for myself in case any other clients ask me that, Ashwini, I want the same color thing, or I like the flowers in this, or I like the leaves in that, so can you just edit and give it to me? So I'll always keep that as a digital backdrop for myself. And again, it's always to create something original and new, right? You can see in the edit here, I'll show you, it's everything from scratch. You can see people holding the branches, and then how I clean up the backdrop and make it into a nice perfect digital image on which the baby is going to be composited in. There is no one way to do a thing in Photoshop. There are so many different tools. There are so many ways. Throughout this edit, you'll find that I have tried a couple of things. Sometimes it has worked out, sometimes it is not. That's how it works in Photoshop. You need to try a few things and then figure out which works the best. So I'm not only showing you how I do it, I've also shown you my mistakes so that you can learn from the mistakes and then you can implement it in your own workflow. Why wait? Let's get on to the edit right now. Hey wait, I'm not just going to tell you how I edit the backdrop. I'm also telling you important shortcuts which I use in Photoshop, which will drastically increase the speed of your workflow and reduce the time you're spending on an image for editing. So watch carefully, listen to the shortcuts I tell you, and hope this helps. Happy watching. Okay, so let's start now. This is the image I took in my studio just before I shot this image with the baby inside. Now we'll mix these two images and make a beautiful image. Let's start. So I'm cropping this image. You can press C in your keyboard and then you can zoom in. You can zoom in by pressing Alt and then scroll wheel button in your mouse. You can see there's a dent in the branch and then there are fingers and all. We are now using spot removal tool in Photoshop. Spot removal tool basically samples the area which we have selected around and then it will give us a result which will work 90% of the times, and very rare it doesn't work. So let's see if Photoshop magic works here. Let's select this area. Let's wait for the result. Yes, it's done a very good job. There's a black mark there again. I'm going to remove that also. So we'll now zoom back, go to the other side, remove the finger on the branch. Again, spot removal tool. Just click on that. I'm reducing the brush size. You can reduce the brush size by pressing the square brackets, open and close square brackets on your keyboard. I'm zooming back and again to get a clear perspective. I see that there's a crease in the backdrop. I'm now going to use the patch tool and then patch that area. Basically, patch tool, it resamples area from the neighboring areas whichever we have selected. Again, I'm zooming back, cleaning up bits and pieces of the backdrop. Patch tool is really helpful. You guys must use patch tool in your editing workflow. Sometimes even it also works, sometimes it may not work. You can just press Ctrl Z and then resample another area. I'm cleaning in all the dust speckles, the creases in the backdrop. I'm zooming in back and forth again. I'm just speeding up this part so we can move on to the main edit. Right, so I feel this is fine. This image now is in portrait mode. I want it to be in landscape. So what I'm doing is, again I'm pressing C on my keyboard. I'm just expanding the canvas, and if you see on top there's a checkbox called as content aware. I'm clicking on the content aware checkbox. What it basically does is Photoshop resamples areas from the neighboring side and then it decides what that area might look like and it will give us an approximate result. Again, most of the times it may work, sometimes it may not. Let us wait and see what Photoshop will give us now. So I've just clicked on that button, I'm waiting. So let's wait. Will it give us a nice output, what we like? Let's wait. Oh, it looks nice on the right side, but the left side part has too much darkness. It's very dark, too much dark green and a lot of shadows there. So let's see how we can fix that. Right now on the top of my mind, I'm thinking I'll go to adjustments layer, increase the highlights, apply a layer mask and then brush off the dark parts. I don't know if it will work, so let's try and see. Before that, let's take a snapshot. If you see on the right side in the history tab, I've taken a lot of snapshots. So basically snapshot is something which will tell Photoshop that if you've gone ahead in your editing workflow, if you want to come back to a particular state, you can see all the steps listed there. So you can come back to the state anytime you want. To get that, you see I'm clicking on the camera button right there. So camera button, it will tell Photoshop that please take a snapshot of the current state. And when I click on that, revert to that state and I want to start edit all over from that state. So basically if you are using the snapshots, it's very good habit so that you know it's very easy to get back to whatever state you want. So let's move ahead now. As I told, let's take another adjustment layer. I'll increase the highlights. The layer mask is already applied. So I'm just seeing the left side of the image. I'm not seeing the right side of the image because I want to see how the left side is behaving. So once I'm just seeing that, but I'm not happy because there are too many shadows still. So I go back to the previous state. Now what I'm thinking is I'll fix this part by doing the same adjustment layer thing, only the left side part, so that when we do content aware, it's going to take that area and then sample it. So again, I'm increasing the highlights in that new adjustment layer. Again, I'm seeing only the left part. Okay, it looks fine. Now what I'll do is I'll go and invert the mask. You can press Ctrl I and invert the mask. Now I'll take the brush by pressing B button, and then again I'm increasing the brush size by pressing the open square brackets. I'm brushing off the parts, but still I'm feeling the highlights are a little too much and I'm not liking the way it's turning out. So I'm turning off the layer and then flattening the entire image. So again, now I'm thinking, let's patch the dark areas and then see if I'm going to get a good result. So I'm just duplicating the layer. I'll duplicate the layer now and then I'll use the patch tool. Yeah, I've duplicated now. I'm using the patch tool. So I'm resampling areas from the neighboring lighter areas, and so that the darker areas will get little merged with the lighter areas. Patch tool, I'm telling you, it's a savior. So I'm just resampling it. Again, I'm fast forwarding this bit. See, you saw that it didn't work out at some time. So I pressed Ctrl Z, went back to that and resampled another area. So I'm kind of happy with this. I'm flattening it. Again, I'm taking another layer. You can press Ctrl J to duplicate the previous layer. Ctrl J to duplicate the previous layer. And then I took a brush. I increased the brush size. I sampled the area by pressing Alt and I took the green color. I have decreased the opacity and I'm just brushing off all the darker areas. You see that there's a little green on the wood branch. So I'm applying a layer mask, decreasing the brush size and increasing the opacity back to 100%, and I'm brushing off the wooden branch. So the wooden branch is now as good as new. I'm happy how it turned out. So I flattened the layer. So now let us apply the content aware crop and see if it's going to work out. I'm pretty sure it's going to work out this time. So let us try. Waiting. Dear Photoshop, please be good to me. Yes, looks perfect, just like how I wanted. Lighter in the middle, darker in the sides. Amazing, I liked it. So let's move on. Let's start the editing of baby onto this. Hey, the video isn't finished, right? Then why is she popping in the middle? Is that what you're thinking? Yes, I know. I just popped in the middle to say that I would really appreciate if you would like this video, share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel, because this is not something which I do usually. I've just gathered up the courage and I'm doing this to help you all and to share whatever I've learned so that I can spread the knowledge. So please do share and subscribe. Go watch the edit now. Now I'm pressing M on my keyboard to select the marquee tool. I'm selecting a rectangle marquee and I'm marking the baby, and then I'm pressing Ctrl C and coming back to this image, pressing Ctrl V and pasting it here. I'm pressing Ctrl T to transform the image. I'm adjusting the baby's size onto the prop. Again, I'm zooming back and forth again to see if the size is perfect. I'm decreasing the layer opacity and to see a little bit of background and place the baby perfectly on the pillow. Again, now once I'm happy with this, I'm increasing the opacity to 100%. Now what I'll do is I'll apply a layer mask and then I'll brush off the areas which I don't want. Again, I'm using open and close square brackets to increase and decrease the brush size. And once I apply the layer mask, you can see the mask is white color. So I use a white brush to keep whatever areas I want it to be intact, and I use a black brush to erase whatever I don't want. Initially I'm going with 100% opacity to remove the areas which I absolutely don't want, and later you can see I'm reducing the brush size and opacity whenever I want, however I want, and then I'm adding or removing the parts I need in the video. So now I'm removing the parts which I absolutely don't want. If you see I'm zooming in and zooming back, I will be zooming in and zooming back forth to have a closer look and then edit it properly. See, you should be very careful while you're going around the baby, so you accidentally don't remove any necessary parts of the face or the wrap or the bonnet. So make sure you zoom in, turn off the layer, turn on the layer. You can see there's so many unwanted parts. I'm removing it. So always have a closer look. It doesn't harm to zoom in and zoom back, right? So just zoom in, zoom back. Come very carefully. You need not do it perfectly at one go. You can just initially just do a rough sketch, and then once you can, once you have a proper area, you can clearly zoom in and then get back the areas which you want or remove the areas you don't want. So at this point you need to go very slow. Don't rush this part of edit. Take it slow, turn off the layer, turn on the layer, keep seeing. See, I have left out some parts, so I'm just cleaning up that. So turn off, turn on. There was something else there, so I brushed it off. So always turn on the layer, turn off the layer, zoom back, zoom in, get a perspective from far, get a closer perspective. So I felt the baby is a little small, so I'm pressing Ctrl T again, and then I'm increasing the baby's size. Again I'm zooming back. I thought the orientation of baby must be changed, so I change. I feel no, the older one was better, so I come back to that. So I'll commit the changes. Again turn off, turn on. Always do this. I see that in the background the pillow size is a little too much, so I turn back the layer on. I'll reduce the pillow size and I'll get it back to what it was when the baby was there. So I've erased that part, and I get a closer look and see that there are parts of pillow next to the baby. So I'm just zooming in now very much. I'm zooming in too much now, and then I'm using a brush and going very slowly next to the baby. So I'm using a hard brush now to just erase it completely. Soft brush also erases the neighboring parts, so I'm just going in very slowly with the hard brush, just removing the parts which I don't need, all the green areas. See how slowly I'm going in really slow. I'm increasing the size and then just coming back and forth, cleaning up. So I see I've lost some shadows there, so I'll press X on my keyboard and then that will invert the brush. Now I'm getting back the areas which I want, so I'm reducing the opacity now because I want some areas to come back, right? So I'm reducing the opacity and I'm getting back the shadows. So I'm zooming in. I see a little bit of wrap there. I'll remove that later by using the spot removal tool. So I'm just getting back all the shadows around the baby with the lower opacity brush. So now what I'll do, I'll increase the brush opacity to 100% and brush on the baby by pressing X. So whatever baby's parts are there is all intact. So see how slowly I'm moving around the baby, making sure that I've not lost any detail on the baby. So going very slow, turning off, turning on. You have to do this back and forth. Take this part very slowly. So I'm just cleaning that very slowly. I'm fast forwarding this bit. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm zooming back and forth. I'm brushing very slowly around the baby, turning on, turning off the layer multiple times and seeing how the baby was, and I'm going back to the edited image, seeing how the image was, and I'm making sure everything is intact. Turn on, turn off the layer. Once I'm happy with how it's turned out, I'll just go back and flatten the layer I'm happy with it. So before that, what I'm doing is I'm taking a snapshot. There you can see I'm hitting on the camera button. It's very important that we take a snapshot before flattening, because after flatten, if you take a snapshot, you will get back to that state. So you don't want to go back to that state. You want to go back to the state where you still had the mask on, where you still can see the steps whatever you took. So take a snapshot before flattening. This part is very important. So I'm taking a snapshot before flattening the layer. Now I've flattened the layer up because I've taken a snapshot. Now I want to clean up some parts of the backdrop, and on the prop there are stems of the plant which I've kept on the prop. So I want to clean up that. So I'm pressing Ctrl J on my background layer, and then I'm zooming back and forth, and I'm cleaning up by using spot removal. No, that was a brush by mistake. So I press Ctrl Z again, and then I use a spot removal tool. I would like to take a pause here and tell actually what I did earlier was right. I don't know why I went back and I got that layer back. I went back to the previous step. I turned off the baby's layer, and I'm working directly on the background, which is actually wrong. I don't know what I was thinking while doing this edit. So it's a good habit, like how I showed you earlier, like just 1 minute ago, that you need to duplicate the background layer and then work on that layer. So if you're not happy with however the edit has turned out, you can just remove that layer and all the other layers are intact. So I know I was being very overconfident when I did this. So what you're seeing right now is I've just used a spot removal tool and removed all the areas which I did not want on the backdrop. So I'm just cleaning the prop per se. And yeah, like and subscribe this. There's a notification on the screen. So don't be like me, don't work on the background layer. Just a reminder again. So I'm happy how this is looking now. So I'll turn back the baby's layer on and flatten the image. So this is how the final image looks. So how did you like the edit? I really hope that it helped you and it has taught you a lot. If you found this video helpful, please do like, share and comment on my video. Please comment and let me know how do you find it. So until next video, bye bye.